Welcome to the Reddit Rainforest. Don't forget to grab your hat, rope and boots. We are heading into the forest for some loot. Today, what is something that your parents did that you swore never to repeat to your own kids? I have two. Making fun of their interests and hobbies. It's why I do not like showing anyone my artwork. But I will do anything to support my kids and encourage them. If they tell me something in confidence, I'm not using that as a topic of conversation with others. Tell my parents anything and everyone knows. My mom just could not understand why I was getting mad when she was telling any yahoo at Walmart the whole story of events leading up to my divorce. Both are why my mom wonders why I do not tell her anything. I do not want that for my kids. Well, I had a stepmother who insisted God was punishing my dad for being mean to her while blood was flowing out of his mouth, eyes and nose. Then refused to drive him to the hospital. That always seemed like something I'd want to avoid. Any friends I would make, she would tell me I could not hang out with them because of X reason. She grounded me for 6 months because I forgot to take out one of the trashes. Not that it mattered. I was not allowed to go anywhere anyway. There was one time that I had to stand in a corner in my underwear without eat because she heard a noise that woke her up, and obviously it was me. Once I confessed I could go, I ended up lasting about 18 hours of insisting it was not me. Ugly crying in the corner till like 3 AM at 8 years old. I had to endure 10 years of that because she kept emptying my dad's bank account every time he got paid so he could not afford a divorce lawyer. I hated that woman. Try to be controlling over my kid's life and blame all their problems on the other parent. Dude, when I was 15, my dad, an MD, decided to have a meeting with me to discuss my future and make a choice what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a programmer so bad. I loved that malarkey. So I said programming/software engineering. He went on for over an hour how that profession is lame and you'll always be behind the scenes unrecognized. This was back in 2004. How wrong was he? So I did not know what to tell him. I remember my cousin, who was a few years older at the time, told me accounting would be a good fit for me if I did not know what to pick. It would be easy for me and it'd fly through my degree. So I remembered that and said alright, I'll go into accounting. He literally exploded in my face, yelling and shouting how could I throw my future away. I was scared of him. I never was close to him. He barely spent time with me my entire life. This grown-ass man was never there for me but decided to control my life. I knew what he wanted me to say. I just wanted the yelling and shouting to stop, and I wanted him to calm down. So I said defatedly, okay, I'll be a doctor. He immediately turned around, smiled happy, and congratulated me. I felt what it's like to have a part of me die that day. I wasted 3 years of life on med school before I was like, duck this malarkey. Got depressed and asked my sister to help me convince him to transfer over to engineering school, but my life was never the same. And my psyche was changed as well. I easily give up now. More irritable. Cannot sleep well at all, etc. So I get what you mean. My kids will choose what they want to be, even if it's ducking curling. If he did not want an answer, why did he pose it as a question about what you want? Would have been more honest to just order you to be a doctor if you fail. It's on him. Use them as leverage against the other parent. Abuse them. Allow them to be abused by a significant other. Abandon them, then return years later once they have grown and try to cause them as much pain as possible for who knows why. I have 4 sons and I genuinely cannot imagine doing most of what happened to me to them. Blows my mind. Did your parents battle over who would get to claim you as dependents on their taxes too? Didn't expect to wake up to so many other people with the same experience. That's extremely sad. Oh, this was / is a big one for me. I'm so disappointed in it. Mom makes up to 6 figures while dad makes 30,000. Mom asks him for money back on the taxes because she let him have the 3 kids as dependents. So ducked up. Lecture. My mom could go on for hours for even small misbehaviors. Somehow, it usually looped around to how I did not keep my room clean, even though the rest of the house was just as much of a mess or worse. When I need to have a stern or serious discussion with my kids, I force myself to make my point in 5 minutes or less. I have even said stuff like, look, this is taking way too long. Just do not do this aloud thing again. Okay. I also apologize if I yell as soon as I'm emotionally able to after an angry outburst. I do not remember mom ever doing that. I received so many lectures that went on for ages while just repeating the same things over and over again. It was so frustrating to hear something said for the 14th time asked if I understood, and even when a yes answer was given the lecture still continued. This is so relatable. If I were to tell my mum that she was going on and on about something little, she would only start complaining even louder. Beat me up. Child has black eyes from beatings. Father, you have your mother's eyes. Be unapproachable. Come talk to me anytime about anything. Everything can be fixed. My mom was super liberal with the belt. She was also very religious and very judgmental, but she'd still have the nerve to always be like, why do not you talk to me about things? My son hides things from his mom and waits until he can tell me because she would not respond appropriately. He lost a video game and was lying to her about having lost it, but was so scared that she would find out he was lying. He told me in the car when I picked him up, and I told her I needed to look for something of his that he wanted. All he ended up doing was having it wedged in his game case where he could not see it. My 6-year-old was giving himself anxiety because of a stupid Nintendo Switch game because his mom would have belittled and spanked him instead of helping look for it. It breaks my heart. Edit. We're divorced. Edit 2. Him getting entirely too much advice from what are obviously children and wanting me to violate court orders or to report spankings as abuse. I'm also sorry some of you feel I'm a bad parent because I cannot get sole custody and take away his mother's visitation. The real world is different from Reddit folks. Biggest fattest lie my mom ever told me. Always told me I could trust her with anything. The time came when I wanted to come out as bi. Told me that I was a sexual deviant and can take care of myself from now on since I was thinking of sex. Practically had to beg and kiss her feet to not kick me out. I said it was all a lie. Mind you, I was 17 at the time. The worst part is that she claimed that my sexuality depressed her because she wanted a daughter to duck a man and have kids. I do not know if I'll ever duck a man, nor do I want kids. Not be affectionate. My mom was very distant and not a physically emotional person with me growing up. I realized that if I have kids I'd want to read to them, hug them, celebrate their accomplishments. Overall have them feel comfortable with me to share their thoughts or feelings. Edit. Whoa. Was not expecting any of the comments or upvotes at all. I just post and keep it moving. But you know what? Hugs for all. Only if you consent. I enjoyed reading some of the comments so far and will continue. This has been the most affection I have gotten in quarantine, so I hope you're all doing better than I am. Minimize anything they pursue. My mother would absolutely burn down any dream I had as a kid. Singer? Well, that's nice. But it will never happen. Gymnast? We cannot afford that. But she never went without beer, weed, or smokes. I was 12. Of course it was not gonna happen. But Jesus woman, a little support. Redo things they have done, because it's not the exact way I would have done it. My mom would refold the laundry, or remake my bed. Drove me nuts and made me feel like why even bother trying? I'm pregnant with a girl right now. I will never make her feel like she has to be ashamed of her period. And if I have more kids, I would not force her to be the third parent. When I hit puberty, my breasts were growing out and I was really self-conscious. I asked my mom for a bra and she immediately went to my dad. Told him and they both laughed at me. This among a lot of other things is why I never confide in them ever for anything. Told my mom about one girl I liked. Once. The whole ducking family knew and would not let the duck go for years. Sure as hell surprised her last year when I told her I'd been dating both men and women and never wanted to tell her BC I could not trust her to keep her mouth shut. When she started yelling about it I left. Judgmental behavior. I want my kids to know that I truly love them because of who they are and not feel like they have to hide certain parts of who they are because they are afraid I would not care about them anymore. Refuse to admit I was wrong. The only semblance of an apology I have ever received from my mother was, "I'm sorry you feel that way." I do not think she's ever actually apologized or taken blame for her actions in my 30-odd conscious years. If I ever outsmarted my mom it was considered attitude. I get her thought process. She of course had been around longer than a 13-year-old. So clearly there's nothing I could say to her she did not already know. And she obviously knows better than me. My mom also never apologized. If it ever became clear she was in the wrong, she'd laugh and say she did not remember saying that. Or I must have had some sort of attitude and that's why she acted upset. That is not the philosophy I will bring to my kids. It's gonna be a learning experience for the both of us. My dad would get mad at me sometimes too. And a lot of those times were warranted. And a lot were not. Anytime I proved him wrong he'd apologize immediately. And leave it at that. One time when I was around 15 we were both being dickheads and did not speak for a night. In retrospect I was the main dickhead, but he was a close second. He came in the next day and apologized anyway. He told me he was the adult in the situation and he had not been. He hated things being off with us. And he loved me. That is exactly how I hope to be with my kids. get loaded in front of them. Growing up in a family of drunks has soured me for the most part to drinking even socially. I do partake occasionally but not often. Deep down I feel alcoholism is in my genetics, so I steer clear unless the occasion is perfect. Man, I'm struggling so much with this. Borderline alcoholic. Once I start, I find it very hard to stop. Day 5 of being sober. Edit. Wow guys, I woke up for work this morning and my inbox was chock full of supportive message some awards. Means a lot. I will not drink today. Thank you. Really poor food choices. My mom, trailer trash. I'm sorry. Used to go every day to the 7-Eleven and get me a lunch of powdered donuts, a pop, and some chips. Every so often a sandwich in those little plastic triangles, or a chocolate bar. I used to think it was cool, but even at 12, I knew something was up. I remember my teacher one time came up to me and said, "Don, not you ever have anything healthy?" I laughed it off, but I felt like it was a malarkey thing to do to a kid. I know it's about health. But that would be expensive. If you have no car, no kitchen, no time to cook, and or no cooking skills, because your parents also had the aforementioned disadvantages, that's the best you'll get that your kid will eat for under $3. Sure, you can make rice and beans with frozen vegetables for cheap, but if you work 2+ jobs and do not have a full kitchen, you're not going to put in the time to force your kid to eat something like that. I taught free cooking/nutrition classes for families on food stamps, and the hardest part was getting them to sign up. WIC moms have to take classes, but generally prefer the online ones that take very little time if they have access to them. Once they got into class, I'd say 1 in 6 had some stupid idea about nutrition and would not listen to me. Thanks Dr. Oz. And 1 in 3 was happy about the free food, but was not interested in putting effort into learning. The other half got a lot out of it, especially since we were trained to tailor our lessons to people with no kitchen, including no refrigerator, people with no transportation, people whose tastes revolved around fast food, people with kids, people with health issues, and people whose only exposure to nutrition was the food claims on the front, like fat-free or all natural. Constantly comparing myself to other people's kids and belittling my own achievements. That's just the equivalent of comparing your parents' wages, house or job with other kids' parents. Teaching them by comparing them to their own better behaved/smarter siblings. In a very condescending manner. OFC. Wake them from a dead sleep on a school night to introduce them to my drunk friends I just came home with because I'm a bartender. Oh malarkey, you reminded me of another one. I will never get drunk and make my son come find me and bring me home in the middle of the night before his high school finals. I will never make him bail me out of jail using personal favors. Threads like this make me want to say I'll never do anything that my mother did, but that simplifies a very complicated feeling. When my mother loved me, I felt like the greatest person in the world. It's complicated. Duck and bribe them to stay home and not hang out with friends. I became super antisocial and had anxiety when doing almost anything. Kids need to go out and socialize and make mistakes. My mom will not bribe, but shed guilt trip. We lived outside of a small town, so we were already fairly isolated. Add to that a mom who felt it was a waste of her time and money. We were also pretty poor to drive us somewhere, and we all became shy, awkward kids with less than stellar social skills, and she'd encourage extracurriculars, but then blow up at me if she had to wait in the parking lot after a practice ran a few minutes long. It was a mind duck. Have too many pets in the house. I loved them all, but at the highest we had 11 cats and 3 dogs, and it was just kind of embarrassing, and I never wanted to bring people over to my house. Tell me I depress them when I confide in them. Being too strict. Doing this can actually make my child good in lying, which is not cool. The stricter the rules, the better the acting gets. Nowadays I'm always fine. That concludes this adventure, but do not worry, there are many more coming. Like and subscribe for more videos from the Reddit Rainforest. Thanks for watching.